There's a version of you that doesn't have to try this hard. Not a future version. Not a better version. Just a you that's operating from a different place. And the difference isn't discipline. It isn't mindset. It isn't even belief. Not the way most people talk about it. We've been taught that change happens up here. In the thinking. In the deciding. In the telling yourself a different story until it sticks. And most people spend years doing exactly that. Working hard. Staying consistent. Pushing through. And still, something keeps pulling them back. Not to failure exactly, but to the same version of themselves. What I want to show you today isn't another framework for thinking differently. It's about where change actually lives in you, and it's older than thought. Here's what's actually happening. Most people approach transformation from the neck up. They update their thoughts, reframe their beliefs, write out their intentions, and all of that matters. But it's only half the picture, because while the mind is trying to move forward, the body is still running an older program. Your nervous system doesn't care what you've decided. It responds to what's familiar. It reads the signal you're sending, not the words, not the goals, the signal beneath all of that. And when that signal says this is unfamiliar, this is threatening, pull back, it pulls back. Every time. You've probably felt this. You've done the work. You've changed how you think. And then life hands you a moment that matters. A conversation, a choice, an opportunity. And something in you contracts. Old words come out. Old reactions surface. And afterward you think, why do I keep doing that? It's not weakness. It's not lack of awareness. It's the gap between your intentions and your identity. And the gap doesn't close through more effort. It closes through a different kind of signal. I want to give you a simple way to understand this. I call it the signal-state model. 3 parts: signal, state, structure. Most people assume the brain runs the show. That thought creates feeling, that the mind sends instructions downward. But the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The HeartMath Institute has spent decades researching this, and what they've found is that when your heart rhythm is coherent, when it's smooth, organized, rhythmic, the brain responds. Cognitive clarity improves, emotional regulation improves. The whole system comes online differently. Your emotional state isn't just a reaction, it's a signal. And that signal travels before thought forms. Coherence isn't a technique, it's a state the body enters. Think of it this way: the heart isn't the radio, it's the transmission tower. What it broadcasts, the rest of the system receives as instruction. When the signal is erratic, scattered, anxious, contracted, the body stays in bracing mode, ready for something to go wrong. When the signal is coherent, the body stops bracing. That's not a metaphor, that's a physiological shift. Structure follows state. The states you inhabit most frequently become your baseline, and your baseline becomes your identity. Not who you tell yourself you are, who your nervous system expects you to be. A quick note here. When we talk about programming reality in this context, that's a psychological parallel, not literal quantum physics. What we're really describing is how sustained internal states shape perception, behavior, and ultimately what you do and don't create in your life. The mechanism is psychological, but the effect is very real. Let me make this concrete. 2 versions of the same person. The first version wakes up already rehearsing, running through what might go wrong, planning responses to problems that haven't happened. There's a low hum of urgency underneath everything. It's not panic, it's just a background frequency, like static that you've stopped noticing. When something goes sideways, the reaction is fast. Recovery takes hours, sometimes days. The second version isn't perpetually happy, isn't unbothered by life, but there's a settledness, not excitement, more like ground. When something goes sideways, there's a pause, a breath, and the response that comes out isn't perfect, but it's theirs, not a contraction. Here's a real example. A high-stakes conversation at work. First version walks in running hot, heart elevated, defensive posture already forming, choosing words carefully because they're preparing for pushback. They leave having said most of the right things, but the energy was off, and they know it. Second version walks in after 2 minutes of coherent breathing. Same conversation, different signal in the room. Not because they rehearsed better, because their body wasn't broadcasting threat. The words land differently when the signal behind them is stable. That's not opinion, that's just how nervous systems interact. So how do you actually do this? 3 practices, simple ones. Nothing that requires a retreat or an hour a day. The first is coherent breathing. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. That's it. No special technique. No counting method you have to learn, just a slow, even rhythm. What this does, physiologically, is shift the heart from erratic signal to organized signal. The brain reads that as safety. The nervous system stops scanning for threat. You don't feel it dramatically. It's subtle, but the system shifts, and the more consistently you do this, 5 minutes a day, 2 minutes before something hard, the more the nervous system begins to treat calm as its default. The baseline moves. The second practice is what I'd call anchored feeling generation. This is the piece most people skip, and it's the most important. While you're in that coherent breath rhythm, you deliberately call up a feeling. Appreciation for something real. Small is fine. Steadiness, warmth, not manufactured joy, just something genuine. Hold it for 60 to 90 seconds. Here's why this works. The body stores emotional reference points. Every time you feel something with enough consistency, you're building a biological record of it. You're not pretending. You're rehearsing. You're creating a new emotional reference point that your nervous system can return to. Over time, it stops being something you practice. It becomes something you are. The third is pre-event state setting. Before something that matters, a difficult conversation, a presentation, a decision, spend 2 minutes in coherence, not reviewing your notes, not going over what you'll say, just getting your signal organized. Research on HRV coherence consistently shows improved cognitive performance under coherent states. You literally think more clearly, not because you're calmer, though you are, but because your brain is receiving a more organized signal from the heart. And over time, this rewires the association. Instead of challenge triggering contraction, challenge begins to signal capability. That's not a mindset shift. That's a nervous system shift. Those are different things. Here's what most people get wrong about this. They think you have to feel good first. That heart coherence is for when you're already in a good place. That if you're anxious, overwhelmed in the middle of a hard season, it won't work. That's not true. Coherence doesn't require happiness. It requires rhythm. You don't manufacture joy, you just create a stable signal. Even for 90 seconds. Anxiety and coherence can exist at the same time, at the start. The practice doesn't wait for the anxiety to leave. It gives the nervous system something more organized to follow. And the nervous system, given a choice between chaos and rhythm, moves toward rhythm. Most people never begin because they're waiting to feel ready. But readiness isn't the starting condition. It's what the practice builds. You don't arrive at coherence because you got better. You get better because you practice coherence. So let's come back to where we started. There's a version of you that doesn't have to try this hard. Not because life gets easier, not because the hard conversations stop coming, but because the signal you're carrying into those moments is different, organized, grounded, coherent. Reality doesn't get programmed by wanting, it gets shaped by the signal you carry into it, consistently, over time. That's the actual mechanism, not the visualization, not the intention, the signal beneath all of that. This isn't a 30-day challenge. There's no quota. 1 coherent minute changes the signal. That's enough. Somewhere between the thinking and the breathing, there's a version of you that already knows how to do this. You're not learning it from scratch. You're remembering it. If something in this landed for you, drop the word signal in the comments. Not to prove anything, not because I asked, just to mark where you are. The fabric doesn't respond to force, it responds to frequency.